Hey folks, Mark back with you. It's been a few months, but I thought it was time to check back in, let you know I'm doing okay, doing about as well as can be expected in 2020, waiting for it to end. Yeah, 2021's got to be better, right? But I'll tell you one thing that has been getting me through the year, especially all this time at home, has been music. Getting new music. I think, like a lot of you, bought a lot of things online, but I've also, during the summer when, the COVID thing was a little more stable, or it seemed that way at least, I did hit some record stores and probably would continue to hit record stores up to about a month ago. We'll do them again here soon, but, for now I'm just kind of lying low. I'm up here in Cleveland, Ohio, so we've been kind of had some high COVID cases, daily COVID cases here. So I've been kind of waiting for all that to pass. And then, like I said, 2021's got to be better. But I thought I'd show you some of the things I picked up in the new year. And we'll start with vinyl that is new for 2020. And then we'll move back into some reissues and things I picked up that have always wanted in my collection or have never heard before. All right? Let's start with A Certain Ratio, one of my favorite bands out of Manchester. Funk, post-punk funk. Well, they used to be more post-punk. Now they're pretty much straight-ahead funk electro. And this album, ACR Loco, is their first since, I believe, 2008. So it's been, 13 years. So they finally released this. And they did it on 4 vinyl variations, 4 color variations. I got the red version. I'm not going to take it out, but there you can see it. But it's a great mix of electronic funk. I don't know. It's just it's all the best things you love about A Certain Ratio put into one. They touch all areas. Another band I really like is Nothing. They released a new album this year called The Great Dismal, and this is more straight ahead shoegaze. Typically in the past they've mixed hard rock and shoegaze, and to get a nice unique sound. But this time around, they're pretty much straight ahead shoegaze, with some even kind of almost electronic beats occasionally. So pick this up if you're into that kind of thing. The Great Dismal by Nothing. Another shoegaze album, Ringo Death Star. They're from Austin, Texas, and this is the album they put out this year. Came out last summer, and it is called Cotton Candy Clouds, and it was released on cotton candy vinyl. And another shoegaze band, if you're into My Bloody Valentine, then you'll be into this group. They do that same kind of tone bending sound that you get with Loveless, My Bloody Valentine. But this also, not too unlike Nothing, throws in some electronic, almost danceable beats sometimes to kind of, vary it up a little bit. One I really love this year is a group called Video Age. I stumbled upon this online, and boy, it sounds like it is slick synth pop by a new band who released this album, Pleasure Line, just this past summer. And it is just crystalline synth pop, very 80s. If you like Scritti Politti, Cupid and Psyche 85, or even Level 42, or even Prince. A lot of the tracks on here have that Prince feel to them. Funk, synth pop is the best way to describe this group. Or if you like any of that stuff, please check this out. You'll like it. Asteroid Number 4 is a band I have followed since the mid-90s, and they have never disappointed me. And this album, I think, is one of their best. I really have to say it is. It's called Northern Songs, and it's a good mix of jangly guitar pop. If you like The Church, you'd like them a lot. The Church may be mixed with, if they were a little more shoegazy, but terrific melodies, great 12-string guitar, the Byrds, that kind of thing. Really, this album is really so good. If you want to hear a great song, check out the title track, Northern Song. Australia's Even As We Speak returned this year with this album called Adelphi, and they hadn't had an album out since 1993. I believe it was. Feral Pop Frenzy was the name of that album. Might have been 94, but I can't remember. But they had released a bunch of EPs and singles in the meantime, but took a break for a while and reformed about maybe 5 years ago and released this album. And it's nice. Good jangly pop. Occasionally, they venture into new order-ish synth pop. Here's when it won. I pre-ordered 4 years ago in a Pledge Music campaign. It's the Liverpudlian duo It's Immaterial, and this is their third album, recorded back in '93, but they abandoned the recording and essentially took a break. And then about maybe 5, 6 years ago, they found the tapes for this album, and they decided to clean them up and kind of touch them up a little bit. And they did a crowdfunding deal through Pledge Music. Well, Pledge Music went under, and all the money went with it. So a lot of people who had albums that were pending on Pledge Music, they just fell apart, you know. So It's Immaterial had to find funding to put this out on vinyl and CD, and they finally did. And they honored all the original pledgers. I thought I was going to have to, pay again for it, because I figured, if Pledge Music went under, there went my money. But no, they got backing somehow and put this out and mailed it over to me. So after 4 years, house for sale. It's Immaterial. What do they like? In the mid-'80s, they had an album called Life's Hard Then You Die, and it had a hit single called Driving Away From Home, which was very, like a jaunty road music pop. Their stuff could venture into kind of indie guitar rock to synth pop. And by 2000 or 1990's second album, Song, they'd gotten a lot more subdued and ventured more into Blue Nile and Talk Talk territory. And this album is very much like that, although a little more upbeat. So if you like kind of soothing, relaxing, I hate to say sophisti-pop, but synthesized but not synth pop, just very warm sounding, almost like a Brian Ferry album. Check them out. Here is a first album by the Bachelor Pad. Well, first kind of compilation album that's come out. This is a band I'd heard about in the mid-'80s. They seemed like they opened for everybody when I was reading the British papers and looking at live shows. It seemed like the Bachelor Pad were always the opening act for somebody, and I never really heard them until a few years ago on a kind of a shoegazy compilation. And the Emotional Response label out of America here issued this compilation, All Hash and Cock, the very best of the Bachelor Pad. Think indie guitar jangly pop from the 80s, but with a distinct psychedelic feel to it. Then you're pretty much in their ballpark. If you like 14 Iced Bears, I don't know if you know that group, but if you like them, you probably like the Bachelor Pad. And then this is fantastic, already sold out. It is a double album compilation called Strum and Thrum, The American Jangle Underground, 1983 to 87. It sort of aims to be an American C86, kind of collecting the jangly college guitar pop sound from 1983 to 87. If you're into REM, like Murmur and the Reckoning by REM, you will love this double set. It's full of that kind of jangly guitar pop rock. And it comes with this huge booklet. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's got pictures galore and stories and about each band, and I mean, it's just really an amazing collection. It did sell out. It originally came out on orange vinyl, then a black vinyl run, which I got. But even that sold out. So it will be repressed in, I think, February or March, so you'll have a chance to get it then if you don't have it already. And I think you can get it on CD if you want to get that. But yeah, if you're into jangly mid-'80s guitar pop from America in particular, Let's Active, that kind of thing, check that out. And then on to some reissues. Primal Scream, I picked this up. It was the original Memphis recording sessions with producer Tom Dowd, and this is for their, fourth full album. Give Out But Don't Give Up is what it was called when it came out. But this is Primal Scream, the original Memphis recordings. And so apparently they went all the way to Memphis, got all these classic, soul musicians to play on this record, soul and rock musicians. And then when they took it back to America, or to Britain, to mix it, the label boss, Alan McGee of Creation, didn't like it. So they had a lot of the songs remixed and re-recorded and redone. So this is sort of the album the way it was originally meant to be heard. So outside of the first couple tracks that were singles, Rocks and Jailbird, which are real upbeat, fun, Rolling Stones style party tunes, The rest of the album is pretty mellow. But I like it though. It's a good late night album. If you like, some of the more, slower Rolling Stones songs from the mid 70s, you'll like this. The Charlatans, this is their second album between 10th and 11th. This is a reissue from Beggar's Banquet that came out this year on clear vinyl, and it included a bonus live album, Isolation, recorded in 1991 at the Chicago Metro. So it's good to get a copy of this. You don't see Charlatans records on vinyl very much, so thought I'd grab that while I could. Same went with these Happy Mondays reissues. This is their first album. You ready for the title? Let's see, Squirrel and G-Man. But there's a longer title to it. I have to tell it to you. Let's see, here we go. Squirrel and G-Man, 24-hour party people, plastic face, cart, smile, whiteout. These are lyrics to the song 24-hour party people that is on this album that you may know from the movie 24-hour party people. So this is their first album. We carried this to a record store I worked at in 1987 and 88, and I remember sitting there behind the counter looking at the sleeve and never buying it. And then it vanished and became impossible to find. So glad to have this reissued on London. This was another one I kind of snoozed on too. I bought all the singles from this album, bummed, but I never bought the album because it was always around and then, until it wasn't. Then it got really expensive. So these two albums have been on my list for a long time. So I was very glad to get Happy Monday's first album and their second album, Bummed. They're a good fun party band. I like them. And of course, Psychedelic Furs returned this year with Made of Rain. This is their, gosh, I can't even tell you what album, but it's their first since World Outside from 1991 or 92. So it's their first full-length original album. And it's really good. It picks up where that left off. If you're a fan of the Psychedelic Furs, you will like this album. It is really, really good. And this is a purple vinyl edition. Some shoegaze classics that have been on my list for a while, but just hadn't got around to buying. Slow Dive, Just for a Day. Love this album, played the CD to death. And this came out on limited 4,000 numbered copies on flaming vinyl. So how could I resist? So need to get Souvlaki, the second album, on vinyl. And then I've loved Chapter House forever, the UK British shoegaze band Chapter House, one of the original shoegaze bands, and had all their CDs, but none of their albums on vinyl. So made up for it, got the first one, Whirlpool. If you're a fan of Ride and Curve and Lush and all of that, and haven't heard this album, I suggest you do. The second album was divided among a lot of people. This is Blood Music from 1993. They used a lot of electronics and dance beats that you could tell they were getting more into electronic music. And it definitely infiltrated the sound. And, in 1993, shoegaze was kind of on the way out in Britain, so they largely, the press over there, New Musical Express and NME, largely dismissed them by the time this came out, but I certainly did, and I loved it. It took a couple of my favorite types of music, shoegaze and electronic dance music, and kind of put them together. And the CD I have had since it came out has been glitchy for years, so I'm so glad to get a nice copy of this on vinyl. And then the album I just showed you was completely overhauled by the electronic duo Global Communication over in the UK, and they completely overhauled it and released it as, see if I can pronounce this, Pentamerous Metamorphosis. It's called Retranslated from Blood Music by Chapter House by Global Communication. And if you're into Aphex Twin or even Brian Eno and just more esoteric synth stuff, not dance synth, but more just kind of electronic, even like Jean-Michel Jarre, check this out, Global Communication. It's it bears almost no resemblance to the album it remixes. All right, we've got another one here, the Pale Fountains, another one of my favorite groups. This is a reissue of a CD I've had of theirs forever, and it's a collection of rarities, radio sessions, and previously unreleased cuts. I'm reading that from the back here. But it's terrific. I think if you're going to get into Pale Fountains, this is a great place to start. And I love the photographs. Whoever did the photographs from this session, I thought just did a fantastic job. It almost made them look like a band from the 1920s or 19-teens. Inner sleeve there. The best way to describe it is acoustic indie pop with trumpets. The band is heavily influenced by the group Love and Burt Bacharach in equal measure, and you can hear both of those influences clearly in that music. Fantastic. Leader Michael Head later went on to form Shack in the 90s. Sheila McDonald. This is a great album. I've had this digitally forever, but the vinyl and CDs have been so hard to find. This is her first album, just called Album, and it has been reissued by Music on Vinyl. This originally came out in, I believe, 1970, and it's just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. She's a Scottish singer, and she emerged and did 2 albums, did some live gigs, reportedly took LSD, and everything went sideways. She had a really bad trip with it, and it kind of freaked her out. And I think she was just not into the playing in front of people and fame, or I think being in the public eye was not her deal. So she basically went into hiding. As a matter of fact, she vanished for many, many years and didn't resurface till 2005-ish, and realized she had a following, and came back online, actually made another album, did a CD, and started doing some live shows. So she's alive and well these days. But yeah, for the better part of, 70s, 80s, 90s, better part of 35 years, she went missing. She was AWOL. Like, no one even knew where she was. So anyway, if you like Joni Mitchell, you'll definitely like this. Ariel. This is a band out of Chicago. Great shoegaze act. If you're into shoegaze, this is an album you need to get. It is just big sounding guitars that are dreamy, and if you're into Ride, and if you like Ride, you will most definitely be into this. If you're into Nowhere by Ride, I'm trying to think of who else they sound like. Just every shoegaze band you love, Ariel are like. And this album came out actually 10 years ago, I think. But it was only out in a limited run. And so this thing has been excruciatingly expensive for the longest amount of time. When I first got into them a couple of years ago, I looked this up, and yeah, I had a download of it, but the vinyl was just out of reach. So it got re-released this year on Shelf Life, and I jumped right on it. So great compilation from Brussels with Love. I used to see this around a lot in the 80s, and it vanished. It's a compilation put together by the Belgian label Les Disques de Crépuscule. And it includes original tracks by John Fox, Thomas Dolby. There's an early version of Airwaves on here. The group Repetition, Harold Budd's on here. Rest in peace, Harold Budd. Martin Hannett, the Joy Division producer. Dorita Column. Brian Eno's on here. I mean, just all kinds of great stuff. Bill Nelson, The Names. So if you're into that kind of stuff, pick up this compilation. It's well worth getting. There's a double CD with like a 60-page booklet edition of that's come out as well. Visage. Never had Hearts and Knives. I've had it digitally, but never had the album. But thought I'd go ahead and get it. I really like this. If you're a fan of new wave electronic guitar rock, it's got a rock edge, but it's definitely electronic dance. Much like old school Visage was. If you like the first couple of albums, the Anvil and also the self-titled album, which I do, then give this a try. It's better than you think it might be from somebody who's been away for so long. And unfortunately, Steve Strange left us about 5 years ago. So rest in peace, Steve Strange. Grab this at the Walmart $15 sale. Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. Yes, I've been getting into a little bit of metal lately. And this is an album I've had my eye on for a while to find used. And when I saw it at Walmart for $15, Number of the Beast, I had to get it. Here's some really cool mixes by Trevor Jackson. He went under the name Playgroup in the early 2000s, releasing a lot of fantastic dance 12-inch singles and electronic music there. And he's also a DJ and has impeccable music taste. If you ever look up Trevor Jackson mixes, man, it's loaded with obscure new wave, post-punk, and electronic stuff. And he has a go at compiling 27 tracks released on Adrian Sherwood's On You Sound label. So this is full of everything from tackhead type electronic dance to straight full-on dub to sort of world music. It's all over the place. but it's fantastic. Some of the acts on here: African Head Charge, Dub Syndicate, Nina Cherry and the Circuit, Tackhead, Keith LeBlanc, Fats Comet, Mark Stewart and the Mafia, Singers and Players, Playgroup, New Age Steppers. This is just great stuff. 3 albums, and I got it for 25 bucks. I bet you could probably find it for around that too. Great investment. Blur, Park Life, album I've loved on CD forever. Broke down, picked up the double album. This is such a fantastic album. Such a tour de force for them. They really, they covered so much ground here, from XTC style power pop to, I don't know, synth pop, like Girls and Boys, the hit single from here, to orchestral pop, to like To the End. I mean, just, they really just show off just how versatile they are with this album. A couple Durutti Column reissues. We're a huge fan of Durutti Column, one of the most relaxing guitarists that I can ever think of. Short Stories for Pauline. This is an album that was supposed to be the 4th album by him back in 93 or 94, and it got shelved. So many of the tracks on here I already knew on a CD called Lips That Would Kiss, but it was nice to get the full album here. And then he did an album back in, what year did this come out? 2006, called Keep Breathing. Another one I had digitally, but never had on vinyl. I don't even think it came out on vinyl. I think it was just on CD. So it came out as a double and on sort of this purple vinyl, purplish wine color vinyl. Durutti Column are great. If you're looking to chill out after a long day or something kind of soundtrack, walking, while you're walking, Durutti Column will really, really chill you out. Huge fan. Just a few more to show here. The Stooges' first album, had to get that. Never had it. So there you go. Here's a great discovery, the Corgis, or the Corgis, Dumb Waiters. This was fantastic. I picked this up because I'd seen a couple people in the vinyl group show it, the YouTube vinyl community. So, and I'd seen it around for years and just always wondered. Picked it up. It's really wonderful. They had a hit over here in the UK called Everybody's Gotta Learn Sometime. Check that one out. But their music reminds me a little of the group New Music. I don't know if you know them, British synth pop act from the early 80s. But then they also sound a little like maybe 10cc and maybe Jeff Lynne. I don't know, it's really all over the place musically, but a great soothing listen. Fantastic record. Came out in 1980. Here's another one, been on my list for a while. Porcupine Tree's first official album, On the Sunday of Life. This collects things that Steven Wilson had released as cassettes in the 1980s. And then a couple of stray tracks here and there. So it's all sort of collected, or the best bits of his 80s cassettes are collected onto this double album, On the Sunday of Life. Love Porcupine Tree. Steven Wilson has really come into his own. He's become sort of the go-to guy if you want to get your album remastered. You know, the XTC albums have come out in Steven Wilson mixes. Yes albums have come out in Steven Wilson mixes. You name it. There are so many Steven Wilson mixes out there now. Goth band from the 80s, late 80s, out of France, Asylum Party. And this is an album called Picture One. It's really more of an EP. But I've been grabbing their stuff as it's been reissued because their records tend to come and go very quickly and then get very expensive. So if you're a fan of like late 80s goth, guitar, rock, check out Asylum Party. Good stuff. Britpop band, probably should have shown this with the Blur album, Menswear. They were definitely flavor of the month around 1994, 95, and they were all the rage in Britain for The Enemy and Melody Maker. They were talked up as the best new thing to come out, and they were fun. I enjoyed them a lot, actually. Great singles act. Never had the album Nuisance, so I finally picked it up. It just came out recently. And it came out on orange vinyl. So good stuff. If you like Blur, you know, and then you'll like these guys. They're just fun, playful pop. Great dub release from Augustus Pablo. This is called Africa Must Be Free by 1983. And I got this out of Hofsbrau Records here in Cleveland. And the guy who runs it, Steve, is fantastic with his descriptions. He calls this a dub beast. And it is. It's full-on dub. I love it. Speaking of reggae, I'll stick in that area there. Peter Tosh finally picked up Legalize It in a double edition that's on color vinyl that had a free album of dub mixes. Peter Tosh former whaler, and sadly was killed in the mid-1980s. I think it was the mid-1980s. So rest in peace, Peter Tosh. Fantastic album, Legalize It. If you're into straight-ahead reggae, like Bob Marley, pick that up. Here's a great one, Tea and Symphony, the English Baroque Sound, 1968 to 74. Just very playful English, sometimes psychedelic pop. If you think Penny Lane by the Beatles or Strawberry Fields Forever, and you're definitely in that ballpark. Definitely more of the Penny Lane type thing. Hello, Goodbye, if you're into that 67 era Beatles. Then a couple albums been on my list for a while. Rush, Permanent Waves, found a good, decent used copy of that. Trying to grab their albums. Really looking after Hemispheres now. I want that one. And Farewell to Kings. Those are a couple I'm looking for. Zombie Birdhouse by Iggy Pop. Had to get that one. Found a used copy of that for a good price. This is another one I've been kind of picking up as albums as I see them. Got a birthday gift last August from a couple friends of mine who sent me this 4-album retrospective of Placebo. It's called A Place for Us to Dream, and it's 4 albums of single mixes, B-sides, album cuts, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I don't have any Placebo on vinyl, so this was fantastic. Couple more things to show. Oh, I probably should have shown this with my other Dirty Column albums. Idiot Savants, this came out on Record Store Day, one of the drops. I think it was the first drop back in September. So I picked that one up, Idiot Savants. This is another one I never had on CD or even digitally. Didn't even have it digitally. So this was like hearing a brand new album. It originally came out in 2008. And I don't think it came out on vinyl originally. Final 2, Love. I was referencing them earlier when I was showing you the Pale Fountains. This is their 4th album called For Sale. Get it? For Sale. Love for Sale. Now, I've avoided getting this album for a long time because it wasn't the original lineup. It's just Arthur Lee from the original lineup. But you know what? These 3 other guys, it's a good band. This is a really good album. If you like Forever Changes, pick this up. It's, you know, it's not as lush as that album, but it's certainly got, it's got the tunes. And boy, Arthur Lee knows his way around a tune. So I was pleasantly surprised at just how good this is. And this was a Summer of '69 green vinyl edition from Rhino. So they kind of gave it the original Elektra type inner sleeve and then put it on green vinyl with the label resembling the original release as well. So this was definitely one of the big surprises of this year. And then finally, Freeze, F-R-E-E-E-Z, Freeze. You might know them for their electro hits, IOU and Pop Goes My Love from like 83. Well, a few years before that, in 1980, they were a lot more jazz funk. And they were full on, like early Level 42, first couple of albums. But definitely part of that emerging Brit funk scene. And this album is full of that. If you're interested in what that kind of sounds like, check out Southern Freeze by Freeze. That's up on YouTube. You can find that pretty easy. This is a reissue with a completely different cover featuring another album called Variations on a Theme that leader John Roca, or lead singer and original member John Roca came up with. So it's got some new mixes and some unreleased cuts on here. But definitely, if you're into jazz funk, this is definitely something you want to check out. So there you go. Wow, 28 minutes, and I went through a whole lot of albums. So I'm very impressed that I was able to do that. I really didn't think I would get through all these. There's plenty more to show, but you know, these are kind of the highlights. So I may do another video and show more stuff. So we'll see. Anyway, I hope you all have a great holiday. I know it's been a trying time, and certainly for a lot of people this time of year, because, you know, a lot of people aren't going to see each other like they normally do. I'm one of them, so I totally understand. But, you know, let the music kind of be with you, and I think that's part of why we're all here on YouTube as well, to sort of keep each other company during this pandemic. Again, 2021's got to be better. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my soul, and I think now I'm going to start to spin a couple of records so I can feel that in my heart and soul. So anyway, everybody have a great holiday, and I will talk to you soon.